For days after his father was carried off a boat in the dark and loaded into a helicopter bound for Baton Rouge, Chase Landry finally broke the silence he had been told to keep. What Troy pulled toward the surface of Bayou Sorrel that night from 40 feet below, in a channel that doesn't appear on any official Louisiana chart, is still down there. No, my dad's old school and he's the run 150 lines in a day type of guy. But Jacob and I know that with open water shots, every year we put more big alligators in our boat with that big rifle than any other method. So we are fired up and anxious, and I like our chance. Chase has tried to find the words to describe what he saw breach the water at 3:47 in the morning. He still hasn't found them. What he has found is the certainty that his family will never work those waters again, and the belief that anyone else who tries should know exactly what they're dealing with before they do. The Forbidden Channel. The Landry family has hunted alligators in the Atchafalaya Basin for 3 generations. If you've watched Swamp People, you know Troy's reputation. The man has caught more gators than anyone in Louisiana, worked waters most people can't navigate, and built a legacy that made him the undisputed king of the swamp. He has gone into the basin in conditions that would turn back anyone without his level of knowledge. He has worked channels in the dark, in storm season, in conditions where both the water and the weather are against you. You know, I think the full moon affects the gators in a certain way because a full moon is almost like daylight out there. And I think on a full moon, they can see your bait easier, and the full moon might affect their appetite. I don't know. But we always catch a little better on a full moon. This family doesn't spook. They don't exaggerate for cameras. And in 3 generations of working the Atchafalaya, they have never walked away from productive territory without a serious reason. But there is one stretch of water that even Troy had always avoided. The deepest channel of Bayou Sorrel sits in a section of the basin where something about the water has always felt wrong. Currents move against logic. Equipment fails without explanation. Old-timers across the parish have warned their children about that particular stretch for as long as anyone can remember, not because of the gators, but because of what else might be living in those depths. Troy first heard about it as a boy, running trot lines beside his grandfather at dusk. Everything Daddy done, I was right there with him. Everything I done, he was right there with me. I could almost thank him for everything I know. The old man wasn't prone to dramatics. He was a practical Cajun hunter who didn't waste words on stories that didn't serve a purpose. But when their boat drifted close to the edge of that deep cut in the basin floor, he killed the engine, turned the boy around to face him, and said what he had to say plainly: that water goes down to places that don't connect to the Gulf. Underground rivers older than the Mississippi itself. Things live down there that don't belong in our world. You leave that channel alone, boy. Nothing good comes from dragging up what's meant to stay buried. Troy was 8 years old. He never forgot it. He tested the warning once at 17 on a dare from a friend who didn't know the basin the way his family did. They pushed the boat into the edge of the channel on a November afternoon just to see what would happen. The engine died without warning, not a sputter, a full cutout, like something had switched it off. The radio filled with static that didn't sound like interference. His friend, a tough kid who had never shown fear in the 2 years they had hunted together, went completely silent and started pulling the oars without anyone asking him to. Neither of them ever talked about that afternoon again. Troy never went back. For the next 64 years, he honored that warning. He caught thousands of gators, built a legend, became the most recognized name in Louisiana swamp hunting, and he never once set a line in Bayou Sorrel's Forbidden Channel, until the sonar changed everything. What the sonar found. It's November 16. Troy is idling near the outer edge of Bayou Sorrel, not hunting, just running the new equipment he had recently upgraded to, commercial-grade sonar. The kind designed for deep-sea work, built to map ocean floor topology and identify biological mass. At depth. Complete overkill for swamp water. Troy knew that when he bought it, but he had always believed in knowing exactly what was beneath his boat. And in a basin that shifts after every flood season, better information meant better decisions. Chase is standing next to him when the screen lights up. Troy kills the engine. Both of them stare. The channel drops to nearly 40 feet, far deeper than any official Louisiana chart shows for that location. No survey, no historical record, no documentation of any kind accounts for a channel that deep in that section of the basin. But the reading is steady and clear. And at the bottom of that drop, the sonar flags a signature as biological, not submerged timber, not a debris field from storm season, living tissue. The density and mass calculation suggests a minimum length of 30 feet with a body mass that exceeds anything documented in Louisiana's ecosystem. The closest comparison the display can produce is a large cetacean, a whale-class animal, in the middle of a Louisiana bayou that isn't supposed to be 40 feet deep. That's got to be a malfunction, Chase says. Nothing that big lives in this water. Troy circles back once, twice, 5 passes total. The reading holds on every single circuit, same position, same depth, same biological signature. Whatever is down there isn't drifting with the current. It isn't passing through on its way to somewhere else. It settled into the deepest part of that channel the way an animal settles into a den, like it has been there for years, like it belongs there. Our lives have changed dramatically. It's kind of like we would have stepped on a giant roller coaster about 5 years ago and never got off yet. Troy stares at the screen for a long time without saying anything because he understands something Chase is still working through. This isn't an equipment problem. This isn't a calibration error on a new system running in conditions it wasn't designed for. The reading is consistent across every pass because whatever is down there is real, and it has been real for longer than any of them have been alive. This is the thing his grandfather warned him about. The thing that has been passed down in stories across the parish for generations. The reason old men who had spent their whole lives in this water would look away when certain stretches of the basin came up in conversation, whatever was at the bottom of that channel, it was proof, 40 feet below their boat, proof that the warning was real. Troy Landry had spent 64 years wondering what his grandfather was actually trying to tell him. Now he was looking at it on a screen. He couldn't walk away from it, everyone tried to stop him. Chase pushed back the moment he understood what his father was planning. Jacob said it wasn't worth the risk. Even Pickle Wheat, who never backs down from anything, looked Troy dead in the eye and said what she says when someone is genuinely about to make a catastrophic decision. You sure about this? Because I ain't fishing your body out of that water if this goes sideways. Troy was already decided. Industrial winch gear, steel cable rated for 15,000 pounds, hooks built for serious weight. Chase looked at him, recognized that expression, and did what Landry men do when they can't stop something from happening. He made sure he'd be there when it did. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can give a hunter is proof. The night hunt 3:17 in the morning, November 18th. Chase loads the last of the winch gear onto the boat in the dark. The basin is flat and black. No other boats on the water. No witnesses, no running lights in any direction, no sound except the soft knock of equipment against the hull as they move. Troy had sourced the winch gear from an offshore oil supply contact, industrial equipment designed for platform work. Cable rated for 15,000 pounds of pull. Hooks engineered to pierce and hold under extreme load. The kind of gear you don't bring to a swamp unless you've seen what the sonar showed them 2 nights before. The sonar confirms it's still there, same location, same depth, settled into that 40-foot channel like it belongs to it. Troy positions the boat directly overhead and kills the engine. The boat drifts to stillness. Nobody speaks. This is the part Chase keeps returning to when he describes that night, that moment of stillness after the engine cuts out. We have a massive alligator. I'm talking about as big as they get. He looked like a dinosaur. He's so old. This thing been giving us problems most probably for years and years in this area. We had no idea he was even here, 40 feet of dark water beneath the hull. Everyone standing on the deck knowing what the screen has been showing them. Knowing what they've brought the gear to haul up. And nobody saying a word about what happens if it's worse than they've imagined. The bait goes down, deer quarters, whole chickens, enough scent to reach any apex predator in the state. And the line disappears into water so dark their most powerful lights can't penetrate past the first 10 feet. At 40 feet, it hits bottom. They wait, letting the scent work, giving whatever is down there time to find what's been left for it. Chase watches the line, watches the water, listens to the basin settle into silence around them. 23 minutes. Then the line goes tight with a force that nearly tears the winch mounting clean off the boat. Troy hits the retrieval motor. Immediately, the cable begins winding, straining against weight. The digital display climbs past anything Troy has ever hauled in his career, climbing past the record books, climbing past what the basin should be able to hold, and settling at over 8,000 pounds. The largest alligator ever officially recorded in Louisiana weighed 900 pounds. Whatever took that bait is fighting against cable rated for 15,000 pounds, and it is close to winning. The winch groans under a load it wasn't designed for. The cable vibrates with tension so severe you can hear it singing out across the dark water. Slowly, impossibly slowly, something begins rising from the bottom of the channel. Then the water around the boat starts moving wrong. Not the thrashing of a hooked animal. Something deeper than that. A sustained vibration that travels up through the hull, through the deck, and into everyone standing on it. Chase feels it in his sternum before he feels it anywhere else, a subsonic pressure that makes his back teeth ache, that fills his chest with a resonance that has nothing to do with sound and everything to do with something massive moving upward through a column of dark water toward their boat. "Dad, this don't feel right," Chase says, his hand on Troy's shoulder. "Maybe we should cut the line. Whatever this is, it ain't natural." Troy doesn't answer. The winch keeps pulling. What came up, 5 seconds at the surface. That's all Chase got. And he still can't find the right words for it. The water breaks at 3:47 in the morning. There's no gradual emergence. It comes up fast, carried by the winch and by something that seems to be driving itself upward. And when it breaches the surface, the sound it makes is wrong, not the explosive thrash of a gator. Something different, heavier, deliberate. Chase's eyes go to the head first. Wrong proportions, too large, too angular, nothing like the skull structure of anything that belongs in Louisiana water. The body behind it is elongated the way deep-sea animals are elongated, built for pressure, built for dark, built for a world that has nothing to do with sunlight or shallow basins. The scales don't catch the light from their equipment the way any animal Chase has ever seen in this basin catches light. They seem to take it in and give nothing back, but it's the eyes that Chase keeps coming back to. Not the reflective eyes of an alligator caught in a spotlight, that flat amber shine that tells you exactly what you're dealing with. Not the vacant mechanical look of a large fish suddenly exposed. These eyes are tracking, moving across the boat from person to person with something that registers as deliberate attention. In the moment it's at the surface, whatever this is doesn't look like an animal that's been caught. It looks like an animal that has made a decision. 5 seconds. Then the cable snaps, not frayed, not gradually failing under load. Snapped clean. The creature drops back. The impact rocks the boat hard. People grabbing for anything to hold. The hull swinging. Come on. Please. Get it. Got him. Got him. Got him. Got it. Get the gun. Come here. Come help. No. So we don't lose it. He's right here. We're right here. He's right here. Got a bullet in here? Yeah. Grab the alligator. Chase throws out one arm to keep his balance and catches Troy's shoulder with the other. Troy reaches for the gaff hook, pure reflex, 64 years of hunting. And when a catch is escaping, you reach for the gaff. His hand finds it before his brain has fully processed what his eyes just showed him. He thrusts it toward the creature as it falls. The gaff connects. A spray of liquid hits Troy directly in the face and chest before anyone on the boat can move. The sound Troy makes is something Chase has never heard from his father in his entire life, not a shout, something lower than that. He drops to the deck. The liquid is burning through his shirt visibly in real time. Chase can see the fabric dissolving. He can see his father's skin beginning to blister and swell before he can even get across the boat to him. He grabs water from the cooler, anything to dilute it, but the damage is already happening faster than water can slow it. Troy's face is swelling shut. His breathing is wrong. His pupils are dilating and contracting in rapid irregular patterns that have no business being produced by any toxin from anything that lives in Louisiana. They fire up the engine and run. Troy is barely conscious when they reach the boat launch at Pierre Part. His voice is a rasp. His throat is swelling from the inside and his breathing is coming in short pulls that tell Chase they don't have much time. But Troy finds Chase's arm in the dark and forces out the words, "It knew, son. It understood what we were doing. That wasn't animal instinct. That was intelligence." Chase has replayed that moment more times than he can count in the days since. Not the surface breach. Not the cable snapping. Not even the spray and his father dropping to the deck. The moment that stays with him is his father's voice at the boat launch, ragged, barely there, throat closing, choosing to spend what breath he had on those two sentences, because Troy Landry had lived his entire life in the company of wild animals. He understood the difference between an animal reacting and an animal thinking. He had spent 6 decades learning to read every creature in that basin by its behavior, its patterns, the logic of its movements. And in the 5 seconds that thing was at the surface, what he saw wasn't behavior driven by fear or pain or the blind mechanics of survival. It was a response, calculated, measured, and aimed, whatever came up from the bottom of that channel, in Troy's judgment, made by a man with 64 years of evidence to draw from, was thinking. The helicopter takes Troy to Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center in Baton Rouge. Toxicology runs every test in their database. The compound isn't identifiable, not snake venom, not jellyfish toxin, not any known biological defense mechanism in their records. The molecular structure shows elements that appear specifically engineered to attack the human nervous system. Not a natural deterrent built to deter casual threats, something more targeted, something more precise. Federal health agencies are notified within 6 hours of Troy's admission. Chase's phone is confiscated. Medical staff are interviewed and told clearly that discussing the case publicly will have serious consequences. Nobody has explained why a hunting accident required that level of federal response. The price of knowing Chase makes a decision in the days that followed that cost his family real money. The Landry family suspends all hunting operations in the Bayou Sorrel region indefinitely. For a family whose livelihood depends on covering as much productive territory as possible during a season that only runs so long, abandoning proven hunting grounds isn't symbolic. It's thousands of dollars in lost tags and reduced income across an entire season. A public statement from Troy Landry's own son, the man who grew up on those boats, who learned that water before he learned anything else, that some water isn't worth working. That decision carries weight in Louisiana hunting culture in a way that's hard to overstate. The Landrys don't quit water. They've built their entire reputation on going where other hunters won't. See, we were doing pretty good. We're catching good. We got a boatload of alligators. If we can get a couple more between both boats, Jacob and I, we should be able to come close to catching 100 alligator. Working channels that other families gave up on. Treating every difficult stretch of basin as a problem to be solved rather than a boundary to be respected. For Chase to pull his family out of Bayou Sorrel publicly and indefinitely is the kind of statement that gets remembered. He made it anyway, because he went back one final time 4 days after his father's injury, not to hunt, not to set lines or run gear or prove anything, just to confirm what he already suspected. He idled the boat out to the channel, cut the engine, and ran the sonar. Something was still there, settled into the same position at the bottom of that 40-foot drop. Same mass, same biological signature, exactly where it had always been before and after the night of November 18th, as if nothing that happened on the surface had changed anything for what was living below it. He left within minutes. There was nothing else to confirm. It was still there. My daddy built everything we have on one principle, Chase said when he finally agreed to speak publicly. Respect the swamp and it'll provide. Push too hard. Take what isn't yours. And Louisiana waters will remind you who's really in charge. He forgot that lesson for one night. Saw something on a sonar screen and couldn't walk away. 3 generations of warnings, 64 years of knowing better, and he broke the rule anyway. There's a version of this story where Troy recovers fully and eventually returns to the water, and the lesson is filed away as a close call. Chase doesn't believe that version. The neurological patterns his father is still displaying don't match any recovery trajectory the doctors can reference because the compound that produced them isn't in any database they have access to. Whatever biological defense that creature deployed wasn't designed to warn off a threat. It was designed to end one. Some things are supposed to stay in the deep. My grandfather knew it. The old Cajuns knew it. We got cocky with our technology and our sonar and our belief that we'd figured this swamp out. We haven't. Whatever's living at the bottom of that channel was here before us and it'll be here long after we're gone. The least we can do is leave it alone and hope it returns the favor. The forbidden channel of Bayou Sorrel is still there. And so is whatever lives at the bottom of it.